Um, what made you decide to what song belongs to what abandoned city?
Well, of course, I made a list of the abandoned cities that I felt attracted to, and I'm doing that very intuitively. I'm reading things and I'm finding maybe certain areas that are interesting to me, so I'm selecting them, and then I made a list, and then I put the songs against that, and then I'm pairing them up how I think they could work together, and that they, somehow correspond with each other. On the other side, I'm a big fan of keeping things open in a way. So in a way, for me, it's always a kind of chain of associations that I think is important to create and offer them as an option.
Now, for example, the second song, the Pripyat, the city of Tsjernobyl.
Yeah.
What sounds or what made you
think about that?
Yeah.
Well, I think the city appeared to me like a city that was left very quickly. Seeing the pictures, it appeared like it was a full intact community from my point of view, and then from seeing the pictures, it felt like people just left from one day to the other. Of course, because of the accident was happening, maybe people were afraid of the radioactivity, and then they maybe packed everything together, and by leaving the city in a very fast way, maybe you can only take a suitcase with you. There's hardly no time to pack furniture and things like that. And in a way that appeared to me a little bit like an apocalyptical city. And Pripyat, the music of Pripyat is quite a song that is very based on sounds. So there are a lot of very atmospheric sounds, maybe like sounds in a ghost town, with reverb and strange dissonant noises that are coming from everywhere. And in a way, I felt that this is coping very much. And for example, Krakow, which is also on the record, is an old Italian, maybe more closer to a ruin. And I felt there was some ancient elements in there. It was also it was meant to be the location for In the Name of the Rose, the film. And in a way, I felt like that could have more the traditional song from the music, and the song Krakow is the only song that has maybe nearly pure piano, not treated, with a little bit of distortion in there. So it's just something where I think in a selective process, if you have enough material, you find always like things that can somehow work.
But in hindsight, what sort of feelings were you going through yourself while recording the music?
While recording?
Yeah.
I was actually feeling that there's a very strong way of drama, like a very strong drama in there, and I was surprised by that, because it was created just by using the piano as a sound source and putting that through a distortion or through delays, suddenly created this kind of obscure sound world.
But don't you think that the music that you make, that it somehow reflects the way you are feeling around that time?
No, absolutely.
What were you going through when you wrote the music?
When I wrote the music?
Yeah.
Well, my son was born in February 18th, and so I went through a lot of great things in my life, but there was also a very, of course, I was quite tired, because when a baby is born, you go through a kind of rough phase in terms of time, and on the other side you're very enthusiastic. So the both poles of being extremely happy and being extremely tired and exhausted, they're both there. And I think there's, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think that's maybe one of the extremes time you can have in your life, especially in the beginning when you have when the kids are very small and babies. That was one thing that was there. Then, of course, when a kid is born, you think about your own life and how much time you have left. How old will you when the kid maybe leaves home? You know, things like that. There are thoughts about life in general. I think also your perspective on life changes drastically once you have a kid, because you definitely put things in a different light. Beforehand, maybe you were looking for inspiration in a cafe, so you were sitting there and waiting for maybe something that's coming to you. And once you have a family and kids, you have 5 hours to be inspired, you know. And then you rush into the studio and you do everything you can do, which is not negative. I think that's, in my case, that's a very positive way of working.
Can you tell? Can you tell with this music,
Yeah, I can actually say that this music, it was very, for me, was very close to me, and I was very quick in finding the right tone. The decisions could be made very easily in my case. Plus, at that time, I was also dealing with this Wagner piece, which also brought me in a zone of old classical music that is very dramatic and dark and mystical in a way. And in a way that was also blending in, because I was listening at that time a lot to Wagner's music, because I had to find ways of mine to compose for this musical theater. And so in a way I was really inspired by working more melodically in a kind of longer stretch than in older days, where I maybe worked more pattern orientated. I think this record is the first time where I start to make movements. You can hear maybe for example, in Elizabeth Bay, you can hear a kind of church element in there, that is a piano that has very kind of classical movements in terms of the chords. And I was really happy that this was coming into this, you know, that I had the darkness and I had this kind of like light kind of blends that were coming in, and that I found ways of incorporating different movements in one piece rather than staying on a kind of same rhythm and building up a kind of techno form in kind of stairs, you know, like that, and then the next one, and then you rebuild it, or you take things away. This time it's more like a flow of music, you know.